Belts are fastened. Lou Williams for the win. Bingo!
Oh my goodness.
By Landry, Ariza drop down. Kobe! Oh! Up high! Down hard! Kobe Bryant!
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Kawhi aggressive to the rack.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a preview of the Clippers-Nuggets series here in the 2024-25 first round. The 2025 NBA playoffs, of course. This is your boy, Darian, Dime Dropper, whatever you call me. Been a Clipper fan for 20 years. Don't usually do videos like this where it's pre-recorded. And for those that are new viewers, sorry about the white background. My house burned down in the LA fires, so we're moving in. I just got a green screen. I want to give a shout-out to Nick. He is a Denver Nuggets fan who donated a green screen to me, or bought one for me, I should say. That was extremely nice of him. Did not have to do that, so big shout-out to Nick. I want to give – so this is going to be a preview of the series. I'm going to tell you everything that I think you need to know if you're going to watch this series. If you're not a fan of either team, or if you are a fan of either team, obviously I'm viewing things from the Clipper perspective. You know, I'm the host of Locked On Clippers, been a fan for 20 years. I have season tickets, so I haven't missed a game this season despite everything that's happened to me. Now, we're going to split this up into some categories. So as far as like my first thought when we got this matchup, 4 versus 5, this is the best series of the first round. With all due respect to the Warriors and the Lakers and series and the Knicks series, which I all think are great. If Damian Lillard plays, I think that Indiana-Milwaukee rematch could be fantastic, but nothing quite compares to this. You got Nikola Jokic, you got Jamal Murray, you got the recent champion Denver Nuggets with the best player in the world. Then you got the Clippers with a healthy Kawhi Leonard as of now. James Harden, one of the most famous players in NBA history. Russell Westbrook, who just left the Clippers to go to the Denver Nuggets and is going to have something to say, something to prove against the team that essentially said, we'd rather have James Harden than you. We never believed in you being the point guard. That's Lawrence Frank. Never believed in Russell Westbrook being the starting point guard. So there are a lot of storylines. There's the Harden versus Westbrook thing. And then the Clippers obviously starting this Kawhi Leonard era with the 3-1 loss that essentially began my journey as a content creator as well after I graduated college, or, the COVID ended my senior year. And then the rest is history. I ranted when we went down 3-1, and here we are now. So we got a chance 5 years later to avenge that loss. Of course, we want to look at the history of it all. The Clippers and the Nuggets are 1-1 against each other in the playoffs. 06, our first ever series win. My first year as a fan, we beat them. I was at game 1 of that series, 4-1. It is the only series to this day that the Clippers have won in 5 games. So that means that we are not, in my opinion, going to win this series in 5 games, especially with the fact that we do not have home court advantage. So it's going to be an extremely difficult series. To me, an absolute toss-up. On Denver's side, you have the best player in the world. You have a team with championship pedigree, the 3rd highest scoring team in the league, the 4th highest offensive rating in basketball, and they have the best player in the world. They're clearly more championship tested than the Clippers. They've battle tested. They had a 9-game winning streak at one point this season that was snapped by the Lakers. And even in that 9-game winning streak, Jokic was saying that they didn't even really play anybody. It was honestly shaping up to be what most people expected it to be for the Nuggets this season, which was, a top 4 finish. It was a team that, after they won the championship, they lost Bruce Brown. They lost Jeff Green. People wondered, did they improve enough? You know what I'm saying? They did have the best team in the world, but they didn't add anything. If you go back to my 4 Sportsmen season preview, Flea said, did they add anything to win a championship? And I thought they were good enough. I picked Denver to make it out of the West last year. They ran into a Minnesota team that was built to beat them, and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, especially Jamal Murray, didn't play the best in Game 7. They blew a huge lead. Now, this season, they've really done, and I said this in the offseason, they did really nothing to improve this team at all. Again, they lost KCP and replaced him with Russell Westbrook, essentially. They still don't have a backup for Jokic. It's DeAndre Jordan, who I've heard has not been too bad this season, but if DeAndre Jordan is your backup, you are not winning a championship in 2025. It's not happening. And they don't really have a bench. They still have a lot of one-way players, the Peyton Watsons of the world, or Julian Strawther, who's only good for offense. Aaron Gordon's missed time this year. Jamal Murray's missed time this year. I thought Westbrook was a really solid addition for them, but he comes with his own set of problems, as we all know. So this Nuggets team, in my opinion, has only declined since that 2023 championship season, and that's not really a secret to anybody. Now, the question is, have they declined enough to lose in the first round? Well, it depends who they're playing, and they're playing a pretty damn good team with a lot of experience. Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, championship experience. Ivica Zubac has played in plenty of playoff games at this point. James Harden hasn't won a championship, but tons of playoff experience. Derrick Jones Jr. just made it to the finals. Nicholas Batum, plenty of playoff experience. So the Clippers aren't your normal team you want to play in you're playing in the first round. But when you are a 4 seed, you can't, in the Western Conference in my lifetime, that means you're playing against a dogfight opposition, or it's going to be a dogfight based, because of your opponent. And this series is going to be no different. So if you pick Denver to win because they're electric and they have Jokic and whatnot, I don't, they finished 50-32. We finished 50-32. I have no issue with that. If you pick the Clippers because, well, objectively speaking, we're playing the better basketball going into the playoffs. These guys fired their longtime coach and Michael Malone with 3 games left in the season. They fired Calvin Booth, who clearly the last couple seasons did not do a good enough job. Apparently, he and Malone were butting heads for a while. And, Rick Adelman's son, I think it's David, has the task of taking a team with 3 games remaining in a season to the playoffs. And against a team that has had the same coach for 5 years and a coaching staff this season with Jeff Van Gundy that's been elite all season long. Now, as every single series with the Clippers has gone in the last 6 years, there's only one question that's fucking worth asking. Is Kawhi Leonard going to be healthy? Well, for those that have not been watching, Kawhi Leonard this season was recovering from an operation that he got, a procedure on his knee. So the first half of the season, he did not play at all, really. He made his debut against the Atlanta Hawks. That's a vlog on this channel. I'll have it linked in the description. And it took the longest time of all his ramp-ups when he's come back from injury. It took the longest time for him to return to the All-NBA player that we know him to be. But he eventually still did. And I'm not going to lie. These were the loudest Kawhi has washed. Kawhi is not going to be the same talks that there's ever been since, in these rehabs or in these comebacks from injury and whatnot. But, man, the way he's ended the season, I mean, I'm not a numbers guy, but the numbers speak for themselves. This man, to end the season, averaged 25 points a game in the month of March on 52, 40, 82 and a half splits. In April, 27, 6, and 4 on 54, 50, 86 splits. So these last 2 months, I mean, he's been that guy, and he's been ramping up on both ends of the floor. So if he can finally, after all these years, mind you, this guy's never been fully healthy in the playoffs in front of a sold-out Clipper crowd. The last time we saw him fully healthy in a playoff game was Game 4 of the 2021 second round when there were still cardboard cutouts in the stands. And the first year he was with us, it was the COVID bubble. So as Clipper fans, it has still felt like in year 6 that we have not experienced what this trade, what's selling our whole future and who should be the MVP this season, in my opinion. Sorry, Nuggets fans. Selling him to OKC for Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs, for a guy that surpasses that of Blake Griffin and Chris Paul and Elton Brand and all the guys we've had in the playoffs. And we haven't really reaped the benefits of that too much besides 2021 where he got injured. So this is special. I mean, he has ramped up. He's only played 37 games this season. So he's hitting the point that he would be in mid-season form in playoffs, during the playoffs for us. And some people had a conspiracy theory that we were going to always do that and just start playing him second half of the season. And the only way that it was possible for that conspiracy theory to even be maybe it was true is because James Harden, Norman Powell, and Ivica Zubac have carried this team all season long, especially James Harden and Ivica Zubac. Harden should be an All-NBA player. There's no doubt about that. What he's been able to do in year 16, raising the floor on a nightly basis, has been one of his most impressive seasons, I think, in his entire career. And Zubac has had his best season of his career, and Norman Powell had the best season of his career. Obviously, it slowed down after he came back from that injury, Norman Powell, but he still was amazing all season long. As far as by the numbers, the Clippers, the reason why they've been so good this season is because they've made their mark on the defensive end. Went out and got guys like Jeff Van Gundy on the coaching staff, Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr., and getting Nico Batum back. And putting these guys together, you knew, oh, this is a defense-first roster around James Harden. You got Ivica Zubac protecting the rim. I think he could be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I don't know if he's been the best defender in basketball, but he's been so available, and he's the most valuable defender that we have, because the biggest weakness for the Clippers to me is that we don't have a good backup big, and we don't really have a power forward, like a real big forward. Those are the two weaknesses of this team, I think, in terms of, like, roster. Those are the missing pieces of the roster. A backup center that's good, and maybe like a 4-man instead of having Ben Simmons, Bogey, Chris Dunn. It's just a lot of point guards, kind of. But they all serve a different function. So I think the backup center thing is much more relevant than like the 4-man. But anyway, Clippers are a slow-paced team. We play a slow pace. 22nd out of 30 in the league. It's more methodical. It's more Kawhi Leonard and James Harden in the half court, Zoo post-ups, Harden pick and roll, Kawhi isolation. We are a stagnant offense. That is one of our weaknesses as well. Stagnant offense, but it's hard to guard. It's hard to guard these guys in isolation. And then we are 20th in the league in points per game, 14th in offensive rating. So a very mediocre offensive team, although I think that's not really true. In the last 15 games of the season, so basically when Kawhi Leonard really ramped up, we are the number one offense in basketball. We are, the Clippers. And third in defensive rating. Throughout the season, if you look at the entire season, obviously because we played so much of the season without Kawhi, we're just middle of the pack, 15th in offensive rating. And then defensive rating, we're third because we've been amazing all season long. So basically, the defense is correct and the offense is a little bit not correct. So the Clippers are much better than they look like on those stats. That's why I wouldn't take those, besides the defensive rating. So, and I know you're probably saying, like, of course you think that the stat, like, it only benefits the Clippers. Look, everybody knows what kind of fan I am. I am not just Mr. Optimistic, Mr. Ride my team. I ride my team through thick and thin, but I don't lie about how good they are at basketball. We are an actually really good team this season. And it's just that Kawhi wasn't healthy, so we were good. Now we're great. We have essentially 4 guys that can go out for 20-plus any given night. The Denver Nuggets have 2 of those guys. I mean, who is better, MPJ or Norman Powell? Because I feel like MPJ is just a taller Norman Powell with less aggression and doesn't get to the line as much. But he's taller and better defensively, I'd say. Like in the championship run, MPJ played a much bigger role than Norman Powell in his championship run. But Norman Powell averaged 22 points per game on a good team. I've never seen MPJ do that. So, point being, though, it's not even going to be that big of a... And Norman Powell has killed the Nuggets this season, but a lot of that was that first game when he went crazy in the second half. I don't think he's going to be as big of a factor as many people think. I think if he is a factor, that means the Clippers are going to win this series because the Nuggets are going to have their hands full with Harden and Kawhi and Zoo anyway. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have our hands full with Jokic and Murray like every other team does. It's just that those are the team stats. That's really all I got. The Nuggets are one of the best offenses in basketball all season long, 4th in the league, and I think that's real. I mean, they are amazing. And then defensive rating, they're 21st. It's hard for me to believe that a team that has had a coach for 3 games, has the 21st defensive rating in basketball, is going to beat us the way we're playing right now. 18-3 in our last 21 games. 18-3. And winners of 8 straight heading in to the postseason. But let's talk about how we're going to guard them, because that can get a little tricky. And some might be wondering, why aren't you mentioning the matchups from this season? I honestly don't believe in regular season matchups dictating anything about the playoffs, except for certain things that you pick up from those games. But in terms of the actual results, it doesn't matter. We did not have Kawhi Leonard in those games. There was one game that Jokic didn't even play and they beat us. There was a game that shouldn't have even been played during the peak of the fires and all that. It was like we didn't even come out and try. And it's funny because I believe the Clippers, one of the reasons why we were so successful this season was because there were very few games that we just laid down and died. There were not many games like that, maybe 4 or 5 at most. But the funny part is, out of those 4 or 5, 2 of them were the games in Denver. And I think you're going to see a better effort in game one. I just don't think you're going to see a blowout, and it's because of Kawhi and the effort. But I also want to give the Nuggets their credit in those games. They've outplayed us fair and square, and it's very easy to mail it in Denver because of the altitude and how hard it can be playing against them sometimes. But here's what I'm concerned about. So guarding Jokic is always going to be a challenge in itself. Their starting lineup is most likely going to be Aaron Gordon, MPJ, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and Christian Brown. And for us, it's going to be Chris Dunn, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Norman Powell, and Ivica Zubac. So we're going to have Zoo guarding Jokic. Now, Zoo held Jokic to the worst shooting game of his career last year in December. I think that showed, and he has shown that he can make life tough on Joker, meaning that he can be physical. He's a solid post defender, similar build. However, you can't guard Jokic one-on-one. It's fairly impossible. You can try to make life tough for him, and I think Zoo's one of the best guys in the league to do that, but it's hard to guard Jokic one-on-one. He can turn over either shoulder. He's an elite in the post. He's got generational touch, and he's just so crafty with the usage of pump fakes and all that kind of stuff. He can shoot the ball. You know how it goes with him. Now, the thing is, it's very clear that the Nuggets are most dangerous when everybody's getting involved, when everybody's hitting shots, when the ball's moving, when guys are cutting, when they're flying out in transition. And David Adelman seemingly has made it clear that that's what he wants to do. So I think you're going to see the Clippers and Ty Lue go with the strategy that they used against Luka back in the day. And I think the reason why is because if Jamal Murray gets going in this series and becomes the Murray that we saw in the bubble and in 2023, we are in trouble. Because that Jamal Murray, there's no defense for. The best you can do is contest his shots and get into him. And I think Chris Dunn is going to pick him up full court. I think Derrick Jones Jr., these guys are going to get into Jamal Murray, try to make him uncomfortable the exact same way Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and those guys did last year. And so we're going to hope that, given the fact that he's had some injury questions this season and going into the playoffs, that we can make life tough for him. Because I still strongly believe that without Jamal Murray being an all-star level player, the Nuggets, they're not really going anywhere. They might skin out of this series, but it means Jokic is brilliant. I honestly don't think they can beat the Clippers. Just assuming Kawhi's healthy for every game, I don't think they can beat the Clippers without Jamal Murray being great. I don't think just playing well in the fourth quarter, like against the Lakers last year, is going to cut it. And they got exposed against Minnesota with some of the bad games that he had. So, in my opinion, the Clippers are going to go with, especially when Jokic catches the ball in the post against Zoo, the low post, stay home. Don't leave Aaron Gordon in that dunker spot open. Just make Jokic beat you over the top. Now, the challenge there is, can Zoo guard Jokic without fouling and still maintain a level of physicality? That's going to be the biggest test for Zoo. Can he do that? The main thing he cannot do not jump or bite on his pump fakes. You just got to keep your arms straight up and hope he shoots it over the top and makes it. There will come a point where it's like, Jesus, he's not missing. He's going to go for 50, but that might just need to be the strategy, to not let the ball move, to not let other guys get in rhythm, and make it so that Jokic is going to get potentially burned out, although Jokic's conditioning is second to none despite the way he looks. I just think that that's a potential strategy. Now, in the high post, that's where Jokic is very dangerous, because then guys will cut off of him. Jamal Murray will come for that dribble handoff. It gets tricky. So if I'm Zoo, I'm not stepping back too far getting ready for the drop coverage. I am taking one step back so that I can still contest if Jokic tries to shoot, and I'm shading him so he can go to his left. Because what Jokic loves to do is he loves to fake the handoff, turn over his left shoulder, and dart to his right. We cannot have that. We want to make him go left if he's doing that, because then he'll most likely pass to the strong side corner, and if he tries to do a little backhanded skip to the other side, if Zoo has his hands up, it's likely he can get a deflection, and that ball would have a lot of time in the air. We have guys like Chris Dunn, Kawhi Leonard, and Derrick Jones Jr. who are really good shooting the gap and intercepting passes. So if we can make Jokic turn the ball over, that would be great. So I think a level of when Jokic catches the ball in the high post, Zoo's got to be prepared for the dribble handoff, but make sure he's still not super backed off on Jokic, because then he's going to have a bunch of space to pass, and we're going to get picked apart. In terms of the pick and roll, I still believe that we should have Zoo and drop, because we want him around the rim and we want him, taking away Jamal Murray's in-between game. When Jokic is the roller, I think we need to just pre-rotate and have a guy ready to get to Jokic and force Murray to make the skip pass, just so we don't have the ball in Jokic's hands for those pick and rolls, because if he catches the ball on the roll in the paint against Zubac, it's kind of over at that point. So that's the only scenario where I'd say, to start game one, we should force the ball out of his hands, is if he's catching the ball on the roll, we got to get him to get rid of it. So honestly, just if we can pre-rotate, just rotate early, so then Jamal Murray doesn't make the pocket pass, doesn't find one pass away Jokic, make him give a pass to someone else. Because who knows if Jamal Murray's even going to make a great pass there if he gets to give it to someone else and throw it across the court. We have Kawhi, we have Harden. These guys are very intelligent about anticipating, so I would take that away. Now, the most dangerous action for me is the pick and pop with Murray and Jokic. Because if you have a drop big like Zoo, you're conceding the pick and pop three. Jokic this season is shooting 43.5% from three. Last year, part of the reason they lost, 42% from three. Last year, part of the reason they lost is because he shot 28% from three in the playoffs and could not make a three against Minnesota in the end. And that hurt them. That hurt that pick and pop that was so lethal in 2023. So, should we concede it? There's two options. There's actually a couple options. There's switch, but I would not switch Chris Dunn onto Jokic. That's just not a good idea because we're going to have to double. What we could do is just give him that shot. Just pick and pop, make sure Murray doesn't hit you. Just give him that shot because then that would follow along with the theme of, okay, we're not going to help on Jokic in the low post. In the high post, we're just going to be worried about him turning. We want him to give up the ball and then pre-rotate on the roll. But on the pick and pop, and we're going to leave him open for three. We could do that, but it might be suicidal. Now, the other option on that pick and pop is that we just wait for the ball to get to Jokic or get ready for rotation and just force them to swing it. But then you're potentially letting other guys get involved. However, I'm living with it, especially if it's Peyton Watson or Russell Westbrook. I'm also living with that strategy. And one thing's for sure, no one strategy will be constant for the whole series. There might be a game where we're like, you know what? We want to let the other guys beat us. Just not let Jokic beat us, which the Lakers kind of did in the game that they broke their winning streak. They had a guy fronting Jokic. They had a guy ready to come from the weak side to just deny him the ball. And I think you might see a lot of that with the Clippers as well, especially if there are small ball experimentations, which there will be, of no Zoo in the game. And I think no Zoo in the game is very dangerous for the Clippers because the small ball lineup is not proven to necessarily be good. But if we have Batum, Ben Simmons, and Kawhi out there together, which they should be if we're going small, or at least three of Derek, Kawhi, Ben, and Nico should be out there if we want to go with a non-Zoo lineup against Jokic. And I think if we have three of them in there, we can have one fronting and then one ready to rotate on the weak side. And then the second he gets the ball, if they do lob it up over the top, then we're rotating and we're getting out to everybody off the double team. So hopefully we've winded the shot clock down a little bit, stuff like that. Putting pressure on Murray so that the pass isn't easy. So there's a lot of different things that we could do. And I just feel as though our personnel is more equipped to make life uncomfortable for them than it is for us. Of course, the Murray Jokic pick and pop scares me. The inverted pick and roll with Jokic at the controls and then Murray setting the screen for him, that scares me as well. But you know what I would just do there is I would just go under with Zoo, and that's basically, I would just go under with Zoo. You know what I'm saying? Live with Jokic shooting a contested 10-footer or whatever it is. And then if Gordon's setting it, we honestly, I think, could switch that, have Kawhi guard, if Kawhi's guarding Gordon, and I think he should. Because then what Jokic is going to do if Harden's guarding him is they're going to try to just put Harden in the pick and roll, which honestly, I think Jokic would cook Harden, but Harden's a better post defender than he is a perimeter defender. So I think it would be interesting to see maybe Harden can get some swipes in there against Jokic. So I wouldn't mind even switching that inverted pick and roll because Zubats has no problems guarding Aaron Gordon, I don't think. What should we do in terms of matchups to start is an interesting question. Of course, Dunn on Murray and then Zoo on Jokic. But I would honestly, just for the first game, I would have Kawhi on Gordon. Just because that low man help, dunker spot, may need someone to get up in the air. James Harden on Brown to just, relax a little bit. But he's got to be ready for his cuts. That's the thing about Harden. He's got to be ready for his cuts. And then Norm on MPJ. But they have a matchup problem, too. I mean, Jokic is going to guard Zoo. Gordon's going to guard Kawhi. But is Murray going to guard Norm or is MPJ going to guard Norm? Because is MPJ going to be able to navigate those screens? Is Murray going to be able to hold his own one-on-one? Because we had some success against him with Norm attacking him in isolation in the first matchup. So, I don't know. That's a question for Denver. And then as far as how they're going to guard pick and rolls, I think there's a chance that they play drop coverage with Jokic and have Aaron Gordon guarding Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray guarding Chris Dunn, and then just have him sitting on the block for Harden so then he kicks it out to Chris Dunn. I think that's very likely. They did the same thing with Harden with PJ Tucker in the Celtics series, which Robert Williams was staying home on the screener, which is going to be, in this case, Jokic staying home on Zeus. You take away that option, and you force him to pass to Chris Dunn. That is very possible. Now, the other option is, because they're not going to switch Jokic on a Harden, throwing 2 on the ball. Denver, in the past, they like throwing Jokic on the level of the screen with Paul George and Kawhi. And Paul George and Kawhi were not good enough releasing the ball quickly enough and making a sharp pass that put the Nuggets in a 3-on-4 rotation situation on the backside. Harden, though, being the pick-and-roll extraordinaire that he is, has done a good job of releasing the ball, and that puts Zubac in 4-on-3 situations in which he's improved so much. I think that would be fairly suicidal for the Nuggets to try that approach, especially when Derrick Jones Jr. is in the game, and I think Ty needs to not be super married to Chris Dunn, because there are times where Chris will miss an open 3 and an open 3, and he's really cold. But Derrick, not only is he shooting better from 3 this season, about 36% compared to Chris Dunn's 31%, he has that vertical threat on the baseline where when Sue catches the ball in the middle of the floor and someone rotates, it's high-low action, lob city, Derrick Jones Jr. going up into it. So that is a very dangerous strategy for the Nuggets. Their rotations have to be sharp. And that's the way you're going to force some turnovers on Harden. You put ball pressure on him. You take away that first pass and make him throw up a long pass. That's how you force him into some turnovers. But I think a lot of times with James, his turnovers are very self-inflicted and just laziness and bad passes. I think when he makes an effort to take care of the ball, and he has to in this series, because transition defense is going to be one of our biggest problems as well. We're a great half-court defensive team, but if we let Denver get out and run and we lose the ball and give it away cheaply, it's going to be really hard to win over there. It's going to be very hard to win, period, but it's going to be very hard to win over there. So Harden's got to take care of the ball. But they are going to have some problems guarding us. As far as Aaron Gordon guarding Kawhi, great matchup. Here's one issue. What if we just set a screen? Here, Murray, let's come guard Kawhi. Let's attack Michael Porter Jr. in the pick and roll. The Nuggets did not show discipline last year as a coaching staff of preventing Murray and Porter to guard these elite players on Anthony Edwards. They just let him switch over and over, and they got burned. Again, try putting Murray and MPJ on Kawhi. And the biggest question mark there is MPJ, because he's got the size to guard Kawhi. And Kawhi's not really blowing by guys. He's looking more spry, looking more athletic, but he's not blowing by guys. It's still over the top. It's still bump. So hopefully with MPJ being a bad isolation defender and Kawhi being so crafty and so fundamentally sound, he can still get buckets and create enough space to cook MPJ to the point where they're in trouble. Now, one thing that the Nuggets could do is Jokic is not a terrible post defender. He's a worse pick and roll defender. So I would play Zubac straight up and let them go at it. And then as far as Kawhi, if I do switch Murray and Porter Jr. onto him and run into problems, I would just start doubling off of Chris Dunn and making Kawhi pass, because sometimes he can take too long passing out of double teams and doesn't see the open man. So that would be my approach with Kawhi. Like, I would frequently load up on him, frequently double him off of Chris Dunn's man, off of Derrick Jones Jr.'s man, and make him a passer. That's what I would really do if I'm Denver. But as far as guarding the Harden pick and roll, I don't think there's many good options. Just like there's not many good options for us guarding the pick and pop, or for any team guarding that Jokic-Murray pick and pop. As far as that play that they run where Murray sets the back screen for Aaron Gordon, then he rolls off, I mean, these are all tough to guard, but I'll tell you what. One thing that makes me more confident about this series is that our screen navigators, Chris Dunn, Derrick Jones Jr., off the ball, they're fantastic. Kawhi, when he's engaged, which is 99% of the time, it's just sometimes he can be a little lazy off ball. It's going to be tough for Jokic to just thread the needle the way he normally does with us. We're physical. The playoffs, they should be a better whistle that invites more physicality. I just think we're going to offer more resistance. And I'm picking us to win this series in 6 games as a result. And I think our home court advantage is going to be the greatest that we've ever had in our history. This Intuit Dome, it's going to be so loud. The acoustics are built for this. And my dream was to not play the Lakers in the first round or the Warriors in the first round. So we had an all Clipper fan crowd for the first ever Intuit Dome series, and I got my wish. So the fact that luck seems to be going our way for once, I'm trying not to speak too soon, but it feels like finally there's been some luck that's going to go our way. I mean, you got to think about this, Denver fans. Kawhi Leonard didn't finish the season last year after being healthy for the entire season, damn near. He was finally not load managing, doing all the things right, and then his knee wore down. Then the previous season, load managing the whole season, being very cautious the whole season, plays amazing first 2 games against the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs, and then tears his meniscus. And then 2021, we look like we have our best chance to win a championship in franchise history, and then boom, tears his ACL. So eventually, and I know the Nuggets had some bad luck too, Jamal Murray's ACL injury that ruled him out for 2021 and 2022. But the stars aligned in 2023. Last year, I know my boy Swipe, I likes to say Murray was banged up. Look, you still had all your major players in the court. There's no excuse. You had a 20-point lead at home in Game 7. There's no excuse. This will be the final nail in the coffin to this Denver Nuggets era when it comes to Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. This will be, in my opinion, Jamal Murray's last series as a Denver Nugget because we are going to expose him. But I like Jamal Murray so much, so it feels bad even saying that. I genuinely envy the Nuggets in many ways. The way they've built their franchise, 2 homegrown guys that led them to a title. They've experienced a guy go from a Taco Bell commercial to being one of the greatest players of all time. And if you really want to get deep with it, 3 players that they've seen grow in front of their own eyes with MPJ, 4 if you want to count Christian Brown. I have so much respect for the way they play. I genuinely enjoy watching them play basketball, which I do not think about many teams. In terms of their actual basketball, I like watching them play far more than I like watching us play when it comes to offense. However, on defense, I thoroughly enjoy watching us play. So I have a lot of respect for Jokic, man. I dreamt my whole life because I started watching ball just a little after Shaq had been a beast. He was with the Heat when I started watching. And I always wished that I had a great center because I'd heard about Hakeem and Kareem and Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. And I wanted to have a center that I was like, and Shaq, of course. And I wanted to see a center that I thought was like comparable with those guys, the Moses Malones and those the guys of the past. Dwight Howard was not that. I used to shit on him all the time. Marc Gasol was fantastic, but he was not that. DeMarcus Cousins was great, but he was not that. This guy is that. And I thoroughly appreciate him for proving to all the people that were saying that a center could not lead a team to a championship in the modern era, wrong. And he dominates with his back to the basket when it comes to scoring in isolation, and I love that about him. But he's going to have to go down, and I think one of the biggest things to make Jokic tired is to go at him one-on-one with Zoo, is to put him in pick and roll, and to make him work offensively. Wear Jokic down, and also limit Murray and attack him defensively, and we should be A-okay in this series. But it's all about Kawhi Leonard staying healthy, and if I can see Kawhi Leonard be healthy, I will be a happy Clipper fan after begging for his exit. And I'm not going to deny that I did. I just want to see him healthy, and I can say that I was wrong. Please, dear God, please. And now the last part. By the way, this series is definitely going 6 or 7, and I think it's, again, as I'm going to mention, the best series of the first round. And it's because a lot of it's the storylines, too. This Denver team's got a lot of pressure on it. If they don't win and they lose first round, now what? You got to make some major changes. How does it look for Russell Westbrook? You know what I'm saying? This guy is somebody that's, this is the last couple of years, never won a ring, was awful off the bench for us last year in the playoffs, but this has been his best role, his best season, in my opinion, since the Wizards season. I think he played really well for the Clippers when he got traded to us in 2023, but, this has been an entire season with one team. I think it's been a great season for him in his role, but he has won them some games. He's also lost them some games, particularly that Minnesota game. So I think playing against Russ in the playoffs actually makes me more confident because he's so prone to making a bonehead mistake. And I think we're definitely going to sag off of him and Peyton Watson. So there'll be situations where we'd rather have them shoot than Jokic. In the past, Aaron Gordon, but he's shooting 43% from 3 this year, and he's been shooting that well for like about a year now. So we got to be a little more careful with him. But it's not very high volume, so I'd still test it out a bit. Same with Christian Brown. He's been fantastic this year, though. I will give it to him after that sophomore slump last year. But Russ, I think he'll have a game where there's one game at least where he's going to just do amazing. He's going to guard Harden really well. I think that's something to watch, is that how hard he goes against James Harden. He does a good job guarding him one-on-one. We need to try to get Russ off of Harden with a screen because he knows all his moves. It's kind of like the way Russ feels about KD. So that's because besides Christian Brown and Westbrook and Peyton Watson, I guess Aaron Gordon as well, maybe. Those are the only guys that have a chance of guarding James Harden on that team. So we'll see. I think Russ will win them a game for sure, but we'll see if he loses them any, and hopefully we can play him off the floor because I do have some fear about his defense on Harden. If we can play him off the floor because he's detrimental offensively, that would be good. But then he also, could make a bonehead mistake, and sometimes will feed into the open jump shots that we're giving him, and that could be great. So, again, this is a big test for Westbrook just because Like, people think that he's detrimental to winning, including me to some degree. I think he's hard to win at high levels with, especially this version of him. So, and I'm a Westbrook lover. Like, I love that guy. But let's see. It'll be fun to see him, back in LA. Definitely going to be some rah-rah moments. Let's talk about Jokic. I think Jokic is fairly cemented in terms of his all-time greatness at this point with his championship. But when you're the best player in the league, there's always a level of pressure. So everyone's going to be watching him. But I would be prepared for a Jokic was great but didn't have enough help narrative after the series if they lose, which will probably be true. But defensively, Jokic has some flaws, and every time his team has lost in the playoffs, those flaws have come out to some degree. I think last year, the least. But he wasn't great in the playoffs defensively last year. And in 2022, he got exposed in space by Jordan Poole and Stephen Curry. I've never missed a playoff game Jokic and Murray have played. And then Chris Paul was exposing his ass in pick and roll in those games in Denver when they swept him. So as far as Murray, I think there might be more pressure on his, like, in terms of his entire career than anyone else in this series. Because if he doesn't perform again this year, after the Olympics that he had, after last year, after the fact that he's never been an all-star still, people are going to say that one run was amazing, but that's the highest he's ever going to go. That's his peak. And that'll be scary for a guy who is only, 29? 28 years old. MPJ as well. We got to start asking questions about him if he doesn't perform in this series. And then most notably for us, Ben Simmons. I mean, he's at that point where it's like, what are you going to be in your NBA career, bro? You were an all-star early on. You're clearly never going to be that again. Are you going to be able to contribute in a winning situation? Because if you can't contribute off the bench here, then I don't know what to tell you. Batum is going to have a great series, I think. We've been resting and saving him all year. Nuggets fans, if you don't know, there's been games where Nicholas Batum has played literally 8 minutes in games this season because I think we're just waiting for the playoffs. He played in the Olympics. He's got a ton of experience. He's caused Jokic some problems sometimes, fronting him in the post and stuff like that in small ball lineups. Our most successful small ball lineups always came with him and Kawhi on the court together. So I think Nico will have a great series if we win. Derek Jones, Chris Dunn have been awesome all year. I have so much faith in them, although Chris Dunn does concern me a little bit with his lack of offense. But this series is going to be huge for the big four. Norman Powell just needs to be a positive. He needs to make open shots. If he just makes open shots, he's not going to be the best defensively, but if he just makes open shots, then he will be fine. Zoo, it's a lot of pressure on Zoo. He's got such a weight to carry. Guarding Jokic, hopefully making him work on defense as well. Being our, rim protector. It's going to be a true test because Jokic is a pretty good post defender and has done a good job on Zoo. It's going to be a true test in how much Zoo has improved offensively. Can he dominate Jokic one-on-one? He can turn over either shoulder now in the post. He never had that before. He's been fed this second half of the season like a go-to guy that we've been asking for years as a fan base. Jokic has never even played against that Zubats because we played all their games against them in like January and prior this season. So they haven't seen the Zubats that's playing with like triple-double one game, 20 and 10 the next, and it's just every single game, it's domination station. So he's not gonna dominate Jokic. He's not even gonna win that matchup, but if he can win that matchup in some games, and he's not gonna win the statistical battle, but just outplay him on both ends in some games, we're gonna win this series. And then the two biggest stars of our team, who I think there's the most pressure around, honestly, Kawhi Leonard. People, including me, have discounted him from NBA predictions and stuff like that. We have not seen this guy finish a full playoff series since 2021. We have not seen him walk off a basketball court in the playoffs as a loser in front of a packed house since 2016. Injury against the Warriors in 2017. Injury in 2018, didn't make the playoffs. Actually, no, they did make the playoffs. He didn't play. 2019 won a ring. 2020 was in a bubble. 2021 he got hurt. 2022 didn't play due to injury. 2023 he got hurt again. 2024 he was injured again. So he does not lose that much when he's fully healthy. He doesn't. So he needs to stay fully healthy. And if he does, I have a feeling he's going to remind everybody that, oh shit, Kawhi Leonard is still in this league. He's still one of the best players in this league. And the Clippers' risk of trading away their entire future for Paul George was actually to get Kawhi Leonard, and this is why they did it. And this is why this guy speaking to you, was wrong, and why we should not have blown it up, and there was no point of blowing it up, because this is worth the risk of, staying in mediocrity, so to speak, which is what I said we were doing, because Kawhi, there's no guarantee he can stay healthy. Now, some might say there's no guarantee anyone can stay healthy, but we knew with Kawhi it's different. But he's here now, ready to prove everyone wrong, including me. And speaking of proving me wrong, the man that has his fans think about me in their sleep, Harden. Harden has one of the most interesting playoff legacies and stories of any player that's ever played basketball, in my opinion. His haters, and this does not include me, because I have nothing personal against the guy. I'm just a basketball fan that hates the way he plays. But I'm going to be honest about his actual... I always think I'm honest, honestly. But James Harden being a playoff choker that never plays well in the playoffs is complete bullshit. James Harden has actually done a lot of great things in the playoffs that guys have not even come close to doing, including someone like Chris Paul, who I believe is the best player that ever played for this franchise. The best player to ever play for this franchise is Kawhi, but the greatest Clipper of all time is either Chris Paul or Blake Griffin, and I don't think that either of them can touch James Harden's playoff highs. Joel Embiid doesn't touch James Harden's playoff highs. We don't talk about some of the games that James Harden has had in the playoffs in series that he's lost. And I know that sounds like a participation trophy bullshit, but, some of those games against the Warriors, there are guys that are not pushing them to those limits. And there are series against the teams that he's supposed to beat, like the Celtics in 2021 and the Raptors in 2022 and the Thunder in 2017 and the Jazz in 2019, where he was completely dominant in his role. Maybe not the Raptors series, but he had a huge game to close that series. The thing that makes Harden's playoff legacy interesting is he's not won a ring. However, most times he's losing to higher seeded teams. So he's not actually underachieving so much. Last year, we lost to a team that was the lower seed, but we didn't have Kawhi. In 2023, he lost to the Celtics, who were a higher seed. In 2022, lost to the Heat, that were a higher seed. 2021, injured. 2020, Lakers, higher seed. 2019, Warriors, higher seed. 2018, okay, we know what happened there. So most of the time, he loses to a better team. Same thing with San Antonio 2017 and Houston and Golden State in 2016 and 15. There are those times like last year, like Portland in 2014, like 2018 when Chris Paul got hurt, where he has lost the higher seed. But most of the time, he takes care of business. Now, here's where I think this series is very important for him. To me, we can simplify all the bullshit I just said. Bogdanovich is going to be a part of this series as well. I think he can offer us some stuff. He's been great for us the second half of the season. Has really helped our three-point percentage in that second half of the season. But what really makes it happen for me is it's James Harden versus Jamal Murray. I think if Jamal Murray has a great series, Nuggets have a great chance to win. If Harden has a bad series, we're going to lose. I think it's that simple. If he has a bad series, we are going to lose. But that's when you have James Harden on your team, that's the gamble that you're kind of taking. It's hard to get away with how big of a role he has, how much he wants the ball in his hands. If he does not play well, you're screwed. But I think he will play well because when Harden struggles in the playoffs, it's usually against very good defensive teams. Denver is not that. He's 16-6 against Jokic since 2016-17. I think that he's going to have a great series, and this is going to be the first team that he's upset. This is part of the reason why his playoff reputation takes a hit. He's never overachieved or upset a team since 2012 Thunder against Spurs. Since he's been the guy, he's never upset a team. Except you can consider the 3-1 comeback against us maybe an upset, but they were still the higher seed. And yeah. So this is a chance for Harden. Not saying to make everybody respect him like a champion, but to show everyone that he's not anywhere near washed. And he's going to have a big playoff win on his resume that everyone's going to remember when he beat a great Nuggets team because he could not be stopped in pick and roll. It's a huge postseason for Harden. Does he make me nervous? Yes. If I were not a Clipper fan, would I be saying that he's going to choke at some point? Absolutely. I'm saying it, and I'm still a Clipper fan. That's part of why I'm not confident in this team winning it all. But in this first round, I think he's going to actually help get it done. And for those wondering, are you going to like Harden? Are you finally going to like him if he gets it done? Beats Denver? I think the answer is yes. I know. I can't believe I said that. By the way, nothing personal against James. James has been an absolute professional. He's been a great Clipper. He's been awesome with the fans. I just still can't stand the way he plays basketball. And even if he wins this series, I still cannot stand his ball dominance, the way he ISOs, how he tries to get fouls on every three he takes. Sometimes his lack of effort defensively. All that still is true. But if he helps us win a playoff series for a franchise that has not won many, after the way he's been with the fans, I would have to like him. I'd have to be thankful. And I am thankful for the contributions that he's made. Without him, we wouldn't be here. He's been our MVP this season, James Harden. But again, I do not view basketball from a fan's lens when it comes to analyzing. I am a guy that loves to be on the court. I've been a guy with the ball in my hands my whole life. I coach basketball. I have a certain way that I feel the game should be played, and I believe that ball movement and player movement is better. We are not that type of team, the Clippers, and it is what it is because of the personnel that we have. Doesn't mean you cannot win a championship that way, but it is hard to win a championship playing the way James Harden does. I believe that adamantly. I still think that applies to us. However, more Kawhi, less just dominant with the ball in one guy's hands as the playoffs go on will be the way that James Harden could potentially get his first championship, in my opinion. But I got the Clippers in 6. What's your series prediction? Comment below. And if you think that you're not going to have this series covered on this channel, you are dreaming. We are going to have post-game interviews after every single game outside Intuit Dome. We will have a watch party vlog or a game day vlog on every single video and a post-game live to boot and Locked On Clippers on top of that. And I'll be live talking about every damn playoff night of basketball on this channel. So you better believe that if you want to talk ball, right here is the place to be. If you enjoyed my analysis, make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get to 13K by the end of the playoffs. Please, let's subscribe. Let's hit the notification bell. Go Clippers. Clip gang or don't bang, motherfucker. 4-2. Kawhi is going to prove me wrong this series. 13 strippers, James Harden. Let's freaking go.